Hello and welcome to this edition of Thai Food. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, comment, let me know if there's any recipes you'd like me to feature if you know my cooking, or if there's just one you'd like to see my version of. Either way, let me know. Today we're making sausage cheese balls. We like them for breakfast here. You can have them whenever you want really, but primarily I make them the day of, but I'm going to make them 24 hours in advance because I can. And then I'm going to let the dough firm up in the fridge before I bake them off tomorrow. I'm going to start with 3 cups of Bisquick. I buy it in a big box like this. Generally you can find a box like this for about $5. We use a lot of it sometimes making pancakes and whatnot. So we're going to start measuring. The proper way to really do this, because it packs in there, you want to do it by the spoonful and just kind of put it in there. That way there you don't pack in too much, because then your mixture will get kind of dry and you're going to need more liquid. This is about the same way you make bread with flour as well. Just kind of spoon it in there and then you're going to level off the top of it. I'm going to use a knife here to level it off. Just want to make like a chopping motion to try to help it settle in all the cracks before you shuffle it off like so. And I've already got 2 cups already in the mixer. I just wanted to demonstrate how to do this so you don't pack it in too much. And we'll just dump the rest in that for now. Alright, gets that out of my way. And then next we need 1 pound of uncooked pork sausage. I prefer the Jimmie Dean Country Mild, my personal preference. You're going to see later in the recipe I add some sage to this recipe. Now Jimmie Dean does make a sage sausage. If you want to get that and opt out the sage, totally your choice. But I'm going to go with this one, and I'm just going to add some extra sage to it. Get this opened up so I can get it in there. Go right in with the whole thing. It'll mix it in. Alrighty, we got that out of the way now. Now we're going to go with 4 cups of cheese. Now the recipe I pulled up when I started making this, it calls for cheddar cheese. I like to do 8 ounces of extra sharp cheddar, and then I got another 8 ounces here of Monterey Jack. You could do Colby Monterey Jack, you could do Pepper Jack, totally your choice. I'm going to go ahead and shred this real quick here. I found this is the quickest and easiest way to do this. If you don't have one of these, well, I guess you're doing it by hand. And that sucks. It takes forever. As you can see, this makes very light work of it. Big thanks to my mother for getting this one for me. Now, I did try doing this recipe with just chunking up the cheese and cutting it into pieces, and I found that the cheese just kind of baked out of the balls and oozed right out, and it really didn't leave them very cheesy after doing so. And as you can see, the way this acts, it's a cheaper cheese. Not really the more expensive ones, but it all works. It adds the flavor it's supposed to add like you want. You don't have to spend a lot of money for cheese to get the end result the same. We're just going to go right in with this. And now I'll mix this all in all together once I get all the ingredients in here. Now you'll find it probably going to be a bit cumbersome for this mixer, but this is the one with a little bit higher motor and it does handle it. I'm not sure how one with a smaller motor would handle it. You may end up mixing the sausage in by hand. You can just hold it off till the end and then hand mix it in. It'd be just fine. I'm just kind of throwing it all in here because this is the way I usually make it. Alrighty. there's the cheese. Now calling for, originally it called for half a cup of grated parm. I like a little extra in there. Adds a little more flavor. So I'm going to go with 2/3 of a cup of grated Parmesan cheese here. As I mentioned in a previous episode, we usually buy it in bulk and freeze it. This is a package I had in the freezer that we pulled out to thaw up for this. Alrighty, there's that. And next we want a half a cup of milk, or half and half. I have some half and half here, so in that goes. And then next is the rosemary. Now, I originally made this with fresh rosemary. Bought the fresh, diced up the leaves as fine as I could, and then went in with it. This time I'm going to use a ground rosemary. So I'm only going to use a 1/4 teaspoon of the ground rosemary. Good luck finding this in the store. I had to make my own. I just happened to have a coffee bean grinder that I bought specifically for doing spices. And that's what I ground it up with. I found that at a thrift shop for like, I think I paid $4 or $5 for it. It was still brand new in the package. Nobody ever used it for coffee, so it was perfect for me. So we're going to go with a 1/4 teaspoon of the rosemary, and in that goes. And now we're going to do half a teaspoon of parsley flakes. As you can see, like most everything else, I like to buy in bulk. Usually cheaper that way. I lost half of my parsley there when I tried to flatten it. Alrighty. So there's that. And now I got some smoked paprika and some ground sage. I like the smoked paprika because it adds a little bit of smoky flavor to this when you use it. Just a little something extra there. There we go. Half a teaspoon of that. And now the ground sage. I only do about a 1/4 teaspoon of the ground sage. I don't want to overpower it too much. And you got the rosemary in there to contend with, so you don't want one overpowering the other too much. That's it for those. And then, of course, my roasted garlic paste. What's one of my recipes without that, right? As you can tell, I like garlic here. I always have plenty on stock. Whether it's dried, paste, fresh. Don't always have the fresh, but most of the time I do. Alrighty. And that is all that goes into this. We just give it a mix. And then what you're going to do is bake this off at 350 degrees, about 30 minutes. And I'll show you what size balls it makes in just a little bit here. Go ahead and pause it. Okay. So now that I've got this all mixed up, takes approximately 4 minutes or so to get it really thoroughly mixed. And as you can see, it kind of clumps up on my beater here. Makes it a little hard to get it off. But this is pretty much what you want it to look like. You'll see some green in it from the parsley. If you use the fresh rosemary, there'll be a lot more green in it. But, you know, color isn't everything sometimes. Sometimes it's good to know how it tastes. But you can see it's, you know, a fairly dry, not so sticky mixture. This is what you're going for, as I throw some on the counter here. And all you do is make these about 1 ounce balls. I have a little, you know, ice cream baller that I use. It's a number 20 on it, for whatever that means. Usually the restaurant supply store will have something like that in stock. But all you got to do is just make a little ball. I like them a little bigger than this. You probably use a 1/3 cup measuring cup and get the approximate size that I use for future reference, but you just make a little ball like that, lightly spray your cooking sheet, and put them in the oven, 350, 30 minutes, and you'll have delicious sausage balls. This is part 2 of the sausage balls that I made in the other video, and as you can see, I'm getting them set up to bake. This is that scooper I was telling you about. It's got the number 20 on this little piece right in here. I do have a larger one. That one's got a number 12 on it. So I'm assuming that makes, you know, a difference. But this one says number 20 on it. And I checked, and it's actually closer to a 1/4 cup instead of a 1/3 cup. So I was wrong in my other video. So if you don't have a scooper like this, you can just pack it into a 1/4 measuring cup, and that'll work. It's slightly more than what this scoop is, but it's not going to make that big of a deal. The other thing you can do is, you can see I got a couple biscuits here. I just used a 1/2-inch cup for those, and I flattened them nice and thin. And I'm hoping they're going to rise up just a little bit, and then you can put a nice slice through them and make yourself an egg sandwich with that. Imagine that with some bacon and eggs and cheese on it. That just sounds like heaven to me. I don't know if you like bacon or not, but I do, as you can tell. And anyways, I'm taking the excess that I'm not going to bake today, and I'm just kind of packing it in here like this. And I'm just putting it in a plastic container. Now you can freeze this. This is a lot stiffer than what I normally work with because it was refrigerated overnight. But it'll go right in there, and then you can either freeze that or you can refrigerate it and bake it off again another day. I wouldn't let that go more than 3 days in the fridge. You know, you don't want it to go too long. I would definitely cook this before 3 days in the fridge or freeze it. And once it's frozen solid, you can put it in a vacuum sealed bag and you can vacuum seal it. And before you get started on this, you usually want to preheat the oven to 350 degrees. I've got mine preheating in the background. For the tray, I just sprayed it with a olive oil cooking spray. I kind of took the tray and I set it in the sink and sprayed it. That way there, if any overspray happened, it was right near the sink, easy cleanup. That's a tip I picked up off of Food Network watching those videos. But we're going to go ahead and pause the video here, bake this off, and we'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Hello, and welcome back from our brief 30-minute pause. Timer's just about to go off on the oven. I'm going to show you what these look like when they're fully baked. Here we go. And there we are. Look at that. Don't those look good? Just let them cool off for about 20 minutes before you try to eat them. Otherwise, you're going to burn your tongue. And there you have it. Cheesy sausage breakfast balls. Have a good one.